Hey, welcome back. This is Wargammer Sean. I'm talking to you again about Codex Necrons, the new 7th edition Necron Codex. Today we're going to talk about the elite choices for the Necrons. And there's a lot of them. So we'll just get started here. The first one we're going to talk about is Lich Guard. They're 125 points, and they come as 5 Lich Guards, so they're 25 points a pop. And their weapon skill is skill 4, strength 5, toughness 5, wounds 1, initiative 2, attacks 2, leadership 10, 3+ save. Excuse me. They have reanimation protocols and they have a war scythe. Now you can leave them like this so they have an AP2 weapon, or you may exchange their war scythe for hyperphase swords and dispersion shields. And that's 5 points apiece. So if you want to upgrade those, it would be 150 points for 5 of them. Now the hyperphase swords and the dispersion shields grant 3-up invulnerable save, so like a Terminator Storm Shields. And the hyperphase sword is a strength of the user and AP3. So they're kind of they're elite, obviously, hence the category they're in. But they're really good at, they're meant to go and kill things. The problem is they're not super fast, so they may not get to their target super quickly. And the other problem is they kind of need to transport. The shields really help them stay alive. The problem is if they have the shields, then they have the hyperphase swords, which is only AP3. So they're getting chewing up squads that don't have, Terminator armor or better, but they can potentially go up against like a Demon Prince or something like that. The problem with that is that they may die before they get to swing, which the 3-up invulnerable sword, 3-up invulnerable shield is pretty good. So I think if you're going to run Lich Guard, honestly, I think it's worth having the dispersion shields, just because you really kind of need that 3-up invulnerable save because your initiative is so low. It's only 2. That's my opinion. You could do with a war scythe, but like I said, I think you're relying on taking a hit, and depending on what you're going to go up against, if you're using a war scythe, you're probably going to be going up against something that you need the AP2 for. The problem is that they're going to hit you first, and they're usually going to have something good. Now, you may be going up against Terminators that their weapons may be unwieldy, and so they may go at initiative 1, and you might get to hurt them first. I mean, it's a risk. I don't know. They're expensive units, so it's tough. I personally, plan on running them. I would. If I was going to run them, I'd probably run them with the shields, but I don't have any experience with it. So any of you that have comments that you've seen them used or like to have them used a certain way, let me know. I think the ones that I've seen run are usually run with the shields and the swords in the past, just because I think they tend to keep them alive better. And a lot of times they'd have like the Overlord with them or something. That I saw that more in beginning of 6th maybe, and end of 5th when they got their new codex. Since things kind of relied on being faster, I haven't seen Lich Guard used as much as I have other things. Now the next category is the next group is Death Marks. They definitely changed a little bit this time. When they used to come on, they had to mark something when they basically were deployed or deep struck or came in on the board, and then all death marks would wound that marked unit on a 2+. And they kind of, a lot of times people would use a Cryptek with a certain like kind of flamer type weapon to really kill things because they'd wound on 2s. They've changed that with the Crypteks now, so they can't benefit from it. It's only the death marks. The hunters from hyperspace now, they're during the player turn in which they arrive via deep strike reserve. All shooting attacks made by death marks in this unit will wound on rolls of 2 or more, regardless of the player's toughness, or the target's toughness. So, so you basically, once you come in, Deep Strike Reserve, all shooting attacks made by death marks, basically whatever you decide to shoot at, you're going to wound on a 2-up. Now, there's a cool thing now that they have. They have Ethereal Interception, which is kind of cool. So if this unit's in Deep Strike Reserve, immediately after an enemy unit arrives from Deep Strike Reserve, this unit may choose to immediately arrive using Deep Strike Reserve rules. If this unit does not enter play in this matter, then it makes reserve rolls as normal. But basically, at the end of the enemy movement phase, any friendly deathmark units that arrived on the board in this manner during that turn may fire its weapons at an enemy unit that arrived from reserves that phase. Any deathmarks units that does so cannot fire its weapons in the following turn. What this means is pretty cool. You know, you can kind of, it's good against drop pod lists or, you know, things that have a lot of reserve, because you basically have this threat of, okay, you're going to deep strike something onto me. Well, here comes my death marks, and I'm going to shoot you with them. It's kind of a neat little rule. You know, they changed a little bit. Their weapon skill, ballistic skill 4, strength and toughness 4, wounds 1, initiative 1, attacks 1, leadership 10, saves 3-up. And then they have their synaptic disintegrator, which is like a sniper rifle. Let me see. 14. I don't think it's heavy though, so it wouldn't make much sense. But let me check. Sorry. So it's a rapid fire sniper rifle, AP5. So rapid fire, so you can potentially fire 2 shots. I think this unit will still see the board. I don't think you're going to see 2 or 3 units. Well, like a lot of times even in 6 saw 2 units at least. Pretty much any Necron player took them, at least 2 of them with Cryptex in them. I don't think you're going to see that anymore, but I think you are still going to see them occasionally. Potentially 1 unit. I still think they're good. I still think they have their place. They're just not quite like they used to be, which in my opinion was a little ridiculous on what they could do. And I mean, you know, that I guess that's my opinion, doesn't necessarily mean so, but when you have units a lot of times that are like pretty much any player that does them would take them, you kind of know that they're a little bit probably overpowered or broken, quote unquote. I mean, you know, but for instance, you know, I'm gonna go with an example. Like I'm a Tyranid player, and before the new Codex came out, you can be dang sure I took the Doom Malantai in almost every list because he was so good. and you know he was a little too powerful, and you pretty much knew that when they did the Codex again, he was going to get nerfed, or in his case, he's gone now. He gets mentioned in the Codex, but he doesn't have a rule. And the Neurothrope now kind of takes his place a little bit, which... we're not here to go into Necrons, or Tyranids, sorry, but it's just an example. You know, I'm not just picking on the Necrons here. Anyway, I think they have their place. You can take a Night Scythe with them, and you can have a total of 10 death marks. They start with 5 for 90 points. All right, let's move on to the Flayed ones. Flayed ones, they got a little better this time. They're 65 points for 5 of them. Weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 1, which doesn't really matter anyway. Strength and toughness 4, wounds 1, initiative 2, attacks 3. So they have 3 attacks now, base, and then their leadership 10, and saving throw 4, and they have 2 flare claws. So they basically get 4 attacks and 5 on the charge, which is good. They have the deep strike special rule, and they have... and sorry, the death marks have deep strike and reanimation protocols. I forgot to mention that. But the Flayed ones have deep strike, fear, infiltrate, and reanimation protocols. So they can infiltrate, which is nice. Their 2 flare claws are shred, so they get to reroll to wound. And I want to say they're AP 5, but I better check because I don't want to be wrong on that. Flare claws is AP5 shred, yep. So that's good. You know, their weapons got a little better. They got more attacks. They have a use. They're 13 points a model. I honestly like a Space Marines about 13 points a model with a 3-up save and, you know, they shall know no fear. I don't know if the Flayed ones still are going to see much play just because they're still not that good. They're better, but I mean, they can infiltrate. That's nice. Still initiative 2. Probably not going to hold up in combat very well with a 4-up armor save. I mean, this is my opinion. I think you can play them. I think they're decent. I think they're playable. I just don't think they're that good. Still, unfortunately. It's kind of like my Dark Elder. I was hoping the Mandrakes. The Mandrakes are playable now and they're usable, but they're still not like super, you know, you don't see them like in every list. The Triage Praetorians. These guys are 140 points. They're 28 points a model. You get 5 Triage Praetorians, you can add up to 5 more. They come with the Rod of Covenant, and they're fearless and have reanimation protocols. They have 1 wound, initiative 2, attacks 2, toughness 5, strength 5, both skill 4, weapon skill 4. So, they kind of like the Lich Guard. They're, you know, kind of meant to be close combat. The Rod of the Covenant is a strength of the user, AP 2, two-handed melee. So you're not getting an extra attack, you're only getting the 2 attacks. Just kind of like a War Scythe, except it doesn't add strength. You may exchange your Rod of the Covenant for Void Blades and Particle Caster. Let's see. What are they? I apologize that I don't know these right off the top of my head. Particle Caster is 12-inch range, strength 6, AP 5 pistol. And the Void Blades are strength of the user and AP 4 entropic strike and rending. So they have rending special rule, and they have entropic strike. So vehicles, buildings, armor penetration rolls of 6 automatically cause at least a glancing hit if they don't already cause a pen, and they wound on a 6 regardless of the thing's toughness. So, you know, they've got some, you know, with that weapon outload, they would actually have 3 attacks and 4 in the charge, which is nice, but once again, you got something that is going to have to hold up to the first round of assault and then survive and attack back. You know, against monstrous creatures, stuff like that, doesn't really matter. You have entropic strike because they're striking at AP 2. They're probably going to take you down, at least a good portion of you, before you have a chance to strike back. And you're rending, so you might be AP 2, but you need more number of hits to get that AP 2 hit or that rending shot. I don't know. I mean, my opinion on the Praetorians, I'm not that wowed by them. You know, if I played them, I don't think I'd play them, honestly. I think I would take Lich Guard over them. That's my opinion. They're 28 points, so they're, as far as compared to Lich Guard, which are 25 points, but if you give them the shield, they're 30 points. So the Lich Guard kind of buffed up are more expensive than the Praetorians. Next, we're going to talk about the Triage Stalkers. They are an elite slot. They are 125 points. Their weapon skill is skill 4, strength 7, and their front, side, and rear armor is 11. Initiative 2, attacks 3, hull points 3. They're an open-topped walker, but they do have quantum shielding, so they have 13 until the first pen, and they have a heat ray, which is like a melt-a-shot. Heat ray is dispersed is a template, strength 5, AP 4, heavy 1, and focused is 24 inches, strength 8, AP 1, heavy 2, melta. So they're a 2-shot melta at 12-inch range. They're getting a double roll to pen, which is really nice. I like the heat ray a lot. It's one of the few kind of melta shots they have. You can trade up for twin-linked heavy gauze cannon for 10 points, which twin-linked heavy gauze cannon is really nice. It's, let's see, heavy gauze cannon, blah, 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 blah. I know I had you here. Heavy gauze cannon is strength 9, AP 2, one shot 36 inches. So that's, above their normal range, which is, usually most Necron stuff is 24 inches. So that's strength 9, AP 2. You don't get 2 shots like the heat ray, but it's got a longer range, which is nice, because you don't really want to get these guys close. I don't really want them in close combat, to be honest. You can take a particle shredder for 5 points. I don't think that's very good. The particle shredder is strength 7, AP 4, large blast, 24 inches. Honestly, I think it's not that good for its purpose. Now, the real thing, you can take up to 2 more Triage Stalkers. You can have a squad of 3, which would be pretty expensive, but you can do it. The cool thing is they have move through cover. They have living metal, so they basically ignore shaken rules, and they also have on a 6-up they get a hull point back if they've been hurt. The coolest thing though now compared to what they did before is instead of like twin linking things, if it hit all friendly non-vehicle units with the Necrons faction within 6 inches of at least one Triage Stalker, add +1 to their ballistic skill unless they are firing snapshots. So anything that's within 6 inches, a unit that's within 6 inches of a Stalker, becomes ballistic skill 5 for like warriors. For the most part, everything is going up, 1. Most things are 4 in this book. So that's pretty, going from hitting on 3s to hitting on 2s is a big deal. So I think you're going to see some Triage Stalkers out there. I think they're good. I think they're worth potentially taking now. And it's pretty typical GW fashion, when there's a model that's not really being used that much. It's pretty common for them to make it better so people want to take it so they can sell more models, which, smart business move. I think it's kind of cool. I wouldn't mind. I think they're kind of cool models. I wouldn't mind seeing them on the board, and we weren't really seeing them much because they weren't that good before. All right, up next. So, depending on how long some of you guys have been playing, I stopped playing 3rd edition 40k for a little while because 3rd edition really, excuse the French, but pissed me off a lot. I thought, it took from 2nd, which was a very complex game, but to me it was very enriching and fun. It took a long time to play, but then you went to 3rd edition, which changed so much, oversimplified things so much, especially in the beginning, and just made things so easier to kill, and you kind of lost the pizzazz and personality. You just, had a war boss or whatever. But later on, the end of 3rd edition, the Necron Codex came out, and that actually lasted all the way until 5th edition. Like, they just never touched it and never reworked it. And it had some flaws, but it had some other things. And when the 5th edition came out, they really changed the fluff. I'm starting to come to terms with, I guess they kind of needed to, because they wanted to give these overlords and lords personalities, whereas when it used to be the Satans, they were kind of running the show, and most of the other warriors and stuff and lords didn't really have much say. There really weren't a lot of other things in there, like, there wasn't much flavor. It was just pretty much warriors, and monoliths was the only vehicle. There wasn't a lot of flavor there. But the fluff back then I liked more than now. The reason I'm bringing this up is when 5th edition Codex came out, they just changed the Satan to Satan shard, so they're just a piece of the star gods, basically. And they just had them as a Satan shard, and it was just kind of bland, nothing. And now they've split them back up again, so you can have a Satan shard of the Nightbringer and a Satan shard of the Deceiver, which I'm excited about, because I like that they differentiated them again, because they each kind of did their own thing back in 3rd edition. It's cool that you can do it again. So, all the Satan shards, the Nightbringer has a weapon skill 6, ballistic skill 4, strength 7, toughness 7, wounds 4, initiative 4, attacks 4, and then a leadership 10, and a 4-up save. Now, they also have Necrodermis, which is a 4+ invulnerable save, so they don't really need their normal armor save, I guess. And then their warrior is powers of Satan. And then they have Eternal Warrior, Fearless, and Fleshbane. The Nightbringer has Fleshbane, so he's going to really wreck stuff, close combat stuff. When all of the Satans are moving, they move over all models and terrain as if they were on open ground, automatically passing dangerous terrain chests. They cannot end their move on top of other models, and can only end its move on top of impassable terrain if it's possible to set them up there. They also the Nightbringer has the Gaze of Death. So in the shooting phase, it can shoot the powers of Satan, but then they can also shoot one non-vehicle enemy unit within 12 inches that it has line of sight to, and the unit suffers a number of wounds equal to 3d6 minus the leadership, resolved at AP2, which ignores cover special roll. If at least one end save wound is inflicted by the Satan chart of the Nightbringer, he regains one wound lost earlier in battle. So that's pretty cool, little extra power. The powers of Satan, unfortunately, are really kind of hit or miss, because there's other Satans that we'll talk about later that are indifferent. There's one Lord of War one, and then there's one in the heavy section. But these two are both an elite. But the power of Satan is you have to pick, in the shooting phase, you pick a target, and then you roll a dice and find out what the power is. And so it's random, and so the sucky thing is that some of those things are really good at killing heavy things or vehicles or monstrous creatures, and some of them are better at dealing with, like, infantry and stuff like that. And so the problem is that you don't really know what you're going to get until you choose to shoot it, which kind of sucks. But some of them are pretty powerful. One of them is even a D weapon, so it's powerful, but you don't know what you're going to get, which kind of sucks. And the Eternal Warrior, but a 4-up save, as you know, half the time you're going to make it, half the time you're not. So those 4 wounds are potentially going to go fast, even with something smaller. Now, the problem is the good thing is you really can't DACA these guys to death, because you're not going to kill them with bolters. They're toughness 7, and so strength 4, isn't really going to do that. It's gonna you need 5 or better to hurt them. So the Satana the Deceiver is weapon skill skill 5, and toughness and strength 7, wounds 4, initiative 4, attacks 4, leadership 10, and save 4+. Has an epidermis, has the immune to natural law like Nightbringer. Same points, 240 points, just like the other one. They have the powers of Satan. Their special rules are Eternal Warrior, just like the Nightbringer. Fearless, just like the Nightbringer, but he has Hit and Run instead of Fleshbane, which is cool. He also has Dread. Models, enemy units that are within 12 inches of this model subtract 2 from their leadership characteristic. So that's pretty cool. So, for psychic tests or for leadership tests or even morale tests, you're -2 if you're within 12 inches of him. So that's pretty cool. Grand Illusion. Immediately after all forces have been deployed and all scout redeployments have been made, you may remove this model and up to D3 other friendly units within 12 inches of it from the table. Each unit that is removed in this manner can either be immediately deployed again using the normal deployment rules or placed in reserve. So that's pretty strong. It's kind of a way to, if you are going first, kind of respond to someone that's going second in the way they deployed. So I think the Deceiver has some uses too. They're 240 points, both of these Satans. So, they're expensive, and I think they're useful. I just think you have to be careful with them, because I think they're going to be easy to kill. So, like I said, there is another Satan, a couple of Satans, but we'll get to those later because they're in different categories. So for the elites, honestly, in this codex, I think you're going to see people using potentially this, Triage Stalker. Deathmark still, maybe, but I think things like the Lich Guard and the Flayed ones and the Triage Praetorians and the Satans, you might see out there competitively. I don't know. They're the big point sink. Well, the Satans are. The other ones aren't so competitive. You may see them out there. I think they all have their uses, but I don't think the elite section, it's very diverse. It's got a lot of things in it, but honestly, I think in competitive builds, I don't think you're going to see the elite sections used that much. Maybe the death marks, but probably not as many squads as you used to see, honestly. But let me know what you think. I certainly don't have the experience that their Necron players have, but we're kind of starting from scratch with a new codex. But let me know what your feelings are, or if you have some ideas on ways to run these guys, or you think, hey, I'm full of it. Hey, let me know. Otherwise, I'll be coming at you with the fast attack section next for Codex Necrons. And until then, keep on gaming.
Goodbye. 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 Bye-bye. Goodbye. See ya. Bye for now. Bye for now. Goodbye. I like bottoms.